Righty, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the 2026 Williamson County Master Beef Program. I hope everybody can hear me. So I know not everybody's going to speak up at one time, but there is a chat button. You are welcome to unmute if you have a question along the way. We're going to encourage you guys to have questions. This is a session meant for questions, but you can also put things in the chat, which are a little bit harder for me to keep track of. So we'll go through this, do a few housekeeping items, and then get into the program. So I'm excited to have everyone here tonight, and tonight is going to be more about introducing you to the program, to be able to give you an idea about the program, some resources that are available, and then getting into a few of the programs that can be tied to potentially Master Beef as far as some cost share programs, and then just some other opportunities along the way. So I'd like to be able to cover some of the mechanics of the program, how it's going to go from the virtual series to give you an idea, and then get into a few of the other details along the way. So this program tonight, we won't be here for a terribly long time, uh, but this is more about making sure that we get you guys off on the right start and make sure that if you have any questions along the way, that we get them answered on the front end rather than trying to play catch up to the back end. So I'm not sure if you can see my screen right now, but if you can see one of the new challenges of doing a virtual session anymore. So if you've done one of these programs before, you'll notice that this time's a little bit different and that you get put into a waiting room and you have to be admitted by me. So that's making it a little bit more of a challenge tonight as I'm trying to talk and then as let everybody in. So as we move forward for our future sessions, I would encourage everybody, if you can go ahead and get on a little bit earlier, you don't have to, be sitting at your computer. That allows the speaker to be able to get you admitted and get you in the program waiting room so that whenever it does start, we're not trying to admit people all along the way. But we'll get through that toward it tonight. But as we get going, we're going to start talking about a few of the things that coming up with the Master Beef program. So I know I've received a few phone calls today, and I apologize over the last minute. I apologize if anybody came to the Ag Center today. They probably got a little bit of a surprise with the Williamson County Fair taking place right now, going, where do I park? Where do I go? They're asking for a ticket. So uh, I apologize, but hopefully everybody found their way online today. So this is exclusively online. We'll probably do something else in person down the line for a little bit more details on some of the ag enhancement programs. But welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started for tonight. So here's a rough agenda for our program. We'll go over a brief overview of the program, some resources that are available, ag enhancement, and EQIP. So everybody likes their acronyms. And once again, this session will be recorded. So if you have questions and you want to go back and review something, you're certainly to go back and review it and then formulate any questions. Or if you miss a portion of it, go back and review it. So it'll probably be a couple of days before I get this loaded and sent back to you. But once again, you'll have that opportunity. Or if you missed the class tonight, you'll have the opportunity to view it. So just a general overview of the Master Beef program, some requirements, schedules, and some just general FAQs. So I would encourage you, so you should have received an email from me with probably way too much information. When in doubt, I'd probably include too much information, I know, but please do read through those details in each one of them. It's going to list what the options are for the class and then how you can find out more information. And so one of the places to find out more information is the website. So if you'll go to the Master Beef program, everybody should have a link to this at the very bottom of that first email. And so as you scroll down, it's going to give you an idea of what we have coming up for the virtual sessions. Once again, these are on Mondays and Wednesdays. We did have a little bit of a break between the seventh and eighth class because of some conflicts with some of our speakers. So there is a little bit of a break between that last class on the 17th. We skip a few Mondays and maybe a Wednesday because of Labor Day and a few other things. So That's where you can find it. They all start at 5:30 Central Time. So for our friends that may be taking it in the on the eastern side of the state, so that is 6:30 for you, obviously. Um, as we go through here, then as you scroll down a little bit further, so included in your registration for the Master Beef program, you also, like I said, you get the virtual sessions, but you also get access to all of the hands-on sessions that you see right here, listed under the beef and pasture and forage section. So you get all these classes that are included in that. You're welcome to come to any one of them, but certainly not required. It's just an option that's available. If you look at them, if you click on each one of them, it gives you an idea. So if I go to Hay Selection and click on it, it's going to tell you where the class is at. So this is taking place at the Ag Expo Park at 5:30 to 7. And we do ask, even though you are included in all of these, we do ask that you go ahead and register because some of these may take materials, they may take seating location, they may take some space and time. We need to make sure that we have enough. So if you don't mind individually registering for the classes that you want to attend in person, certainly happy to do that, and we would encourage you to do that as well, just for some housekeeping items. There are some other below that. Some other FAQs or questions that you may have regarding the program that you can go ahead and scroll down and see. Those are available. But once again, this is a great site to bookmark where you can see all the class locations. So I will send a weekly email or multi-weekly email at first with the recordings for the sessions, but also what the upcoming in-person classes might be. So, but this is a great place to check it. Once again, these classes all count towards your Master Beef certification, whether it's a virtual class or whether it's an in-person class. So we'll talk about a few other things as we go through it. But as we click back and go into this, sorry, it's going to be a minute as we get everybody joining. So the requirements that are part of this. So as we go through there in the very beginning, we mentioned you have to take 8 classes. It does not matter which 8 classes that you take, but you do need to take 8 classes, and we'll get into the breakdown of what those are. Obviously, you saw the schedule. It's a great thing to be able to bookmark, keep with you, and then just the FAQs. But when in doubt, don't ever hesitate to give me a call. So as we move on into some of the just resources that are available to you as part of what the extension service does for you. And so not every county is exactly the same. You're going to see some services that are available in one county that are not available in other, and then might see some others that are available there that aren't available here. So these are just in general, and I would encourage you, if you're in a different county, just to ask because most of them probably have some version of that available to you. But a lot of these services and these documents and websites are there based on the needs that you guys have mentioned to us. And so we want to make sure that you get a look at them. So one of them that we have is our service directory. And so I do want to take a brief minute to look at that. And so this service directory is available to all participants. And it is strictly a service to you. We don't go through there and vet and say, this is a high quality provider. If you're on here, you're the highest quality provider, or on here, you're a low quality. It just means these are people that offer services along the way. And so if you are looking for hay, and you can get on here and see people that provide hay that have given us their name saying, hey, would you add my name to a hay provider? And so if you look on here, you can see that there's people listed by the area that they live in and their contact information if you're looking to provide or buy hay. So take advantage of that. If you yourself want to be listed on one of these, as one of these services, please send me an email. Let me know what service you're providing, because this is for our community. So we constantly get people calling that may be new to the community, real estate agents that say, hey, do you know who might provide this? Do you know who might do this type of work? And so this is a great opportunity for people to have one place to go and look and find those resources on there. So like I said, use it as you may see fit. Also, if you have an opportunity to provide one of these services, we'll get you added there as well and allow you to be able to advertise your services. Another one that we take that we use quite frequently is the farm visit side. And so this is one of the most enjoyable aspects of my job is being able to go out and visit your farms and just, sometimes just learning about what you've got going on so that if you have a question later on, I have the ability to kind of reference and think about what's going on in your farm and picture it and then be able to think of a strategy that's more specific for what you need. And so I use this quite frequently. In general, I can give a lot of recommendations, or through email, I can give recommendations, but it's hard to do a very specific plan without seeing what exactly you have going on. So it's a great way for us to develop a good working relationship, but also be able to develop plans that are specific to what you have on your operation or what your abilities are on a work schedule. So farm visits are one of the most enjoyable things. Feel free to schedule as you see fit. Like I said, it's a great opportunity to develop a plan specific to your operation, and it's a great opportunity for us to continue to develop our relationship. Soil analysis. So you'll probably hear as we go throughout, definitely as you hear the forage scenario, you're going to hear all about sample analysis, whether it's a soil or it's a forage analysis. It is the backbone of everything that we do. If you if you're looking to buy a cow, horse, goat, sheep, whatever you're looking for, tree, um, everything starts, you look from the hoof up. And so the same thing goes for any plants, any hay that we use, you build from the soil up. And so that's how we like to start with. And so what you can't see, you can't know. And so that's where the soil analysis and forage analysis come. So that's where you can get more information about those as well as videos of how to appropriately collect each one of those. I have a resource page, try to keep up to date with things like our beef IRM calendar, integrated resource management calendar for each year. And so those are one of the most sought after calendars that are available. Resources for livestock economics, kind of marketing and crop outlooks for each week from the economic side. And so lots of other resources that might be available to you. So it's a great website to visit every so often to kind of just check and see what's happening. And then finally, ag enhancement. This is a kind of a very short snapshot of the ag enhancement website. And so we kind of try to break down some really very important information items and put them on there, and then link to the regular ag enhancement website for more specific information. But this kind of puts it all on one window, one screen for you to be able to look at, and hopefully makes it a little bit more concise and condensed for you. But all of these sites and this website is for you. So if you find that we're missing something that you need, please let me know so we can get it added. But everything we have on here is for you, the producer. And if it's not serving you, then we need to get it changed or improved or switched out to something a little bit better. So please take advantage and use them as you see fit, and let us know if there's things that need to be added, deleted, or changed. So as we go through, kind of get an idea on how this is going. So what's kind of new? So probably since the last time you have taken it, we have really condensed and incorporated a lot of things. So we've tried to turn this into a buffet for you. One of the things that we have is we have a list of hands-on classes that are available. They're everything from beef to forages to horse to culinary to lots of things that involve hands-on opportunities. So for our program, and I want to make sure this is clear because I know everybody has a few questions. So there are some on here that they don't live necessarily in this area. There are some that maybe you work in the evenings or you're just coming home from work and it's really hard to be able to get to some of the in-person classes. And so that's why they're taking this virtual class tonight. And so it is perfectly okay if each person has to take a total of 8 classes minimum to complete their Master Beef certification. But that could be 8 classes of virtual classes. So if you want to take all 8 of these virtual classes, that's great. And so you can achieve your certification by doing all virtual classes. I have some people that truly enjoy the in-person component of it, and they enjoy it. And I admit myself, I enjoy that the most as well. Enjoy that interaction that comes with the in-person classes. But some it's just maybe not logistically possible to happen. But we have quite a few in-person classes beginning in September through October, and then actually they go throughout the entire year. So you don't have to technically, and we'll get into this a little bit later, you don't technically have to complete this in August, September, October. You can actually continue to go, or even if you have completed it, you're welcome to continue to go to different classes. So we have different classes all throughout the entire year. So you can take any one of those classes that you want. You have complete access to those. But there's enough to be able to get 8 classes for those as well. So if you just want to do straight in-person classes, you're welcome to. The third option is the field days. And so we do have a couple of field days listed. There may be a few more, but right now we have 2. There is the Williamson County Field Day, and I believe that is on October 2nd. That runs from about 8 to noon. And so registration is going to happen at 8. And then there's about 3 different sessions that day. And so you get actually 3, maybe 4. You get 4 classes that count by attending that field day. So if you're not able to meet some of the virtual classes or can't get to all the hands-on in-person classes, you can come to the field day. That one on October 2nd, the Williamson County Field Day counts as 4 sessions. There's also one at Middle Tennessee Research Station in Spring Hill. And so though that information will become a little bit later, but that one counts as 2 days in itself as well. So you can meet a lot of your requirements just by attending those 2 field days if you would like. And so the fourth option, not listed on here, but really is a combination of all the options. So if you want to do some in person, some virtual, some field days, you are certainly welcome to, however you get to that magic number. But I do want to stress we're not trying to meet just, hey, let's get our 8 certification classes. I hope these things are geared towards all of these classes, every one of them. I know time is of the essence. We all have very busy schedules. So I don't want to waste your time with classes that are just checking a box, like we're not putting any time and effort into it. So I want to make sure that we're putting time and effort into each one of these to make it where it's valuable to you. So my hope is that you're attending to get Master Beef credit, but also just to learn something. And so hopefully a lot of these classes will check that box as we go through here. So once again, I will say, if you have a question, please do not hesitate to unmute and ask a question, because I want to make sure that we get off on the right foot moving forward. So just an idea as we complete the program. So you're going to get a lot of emails that come from me. They're going to come with recaps, links to the next class. Please take your time to read through them. I try not to just slip information in. Usually the newest information is at the very top, but you're going to know about when the next class is. You're going to have a link to the recording. You should be, if you signed on tonight, you should receive an email from Zoom probably, they might even send it twice a week. They might send it 2 days before class. They might send it 15 minutes before class, but you're going to get a reminder and you're going to get the link. So just click on that join every time. So you don't have to register each time. You just have to, they're going to send you an email. You just have to click on that and attend. It's going to let you right in. So what's different about this year's virtual Master Beef series is that it is focused almost exclusively on heifers. Now, the forages is going to be a little bit more challenging to really dive into heifers, but the virtual component of almost every one of these sessions is going to be focused on the heifers. So I apologize if you're trying to get some information on bulls or cows. And so as we've gone through this, you may have gone through this before, but it was kind of general information. And so this year, especially considering markets as one of our early sessions is on the markets, and we're going to talk about marketing heifers, both from a retainment and then also from a uh, looking to sell them as fat cattle. So we're going to start talking and breaking down, help with that decision-making process because that's where we're at right now. Our heifers are worth a lot of money just by sending them off to market as fat cattle, but we're also seeing that our cow herd is decreasing rapidly, and we're starting to think back, well, we probably ought to start thinking about bumping up that cow crop through our heifers because buying heifers is pretty expensive right now. And so this whole session is going to be focused on heifers. And then down the line, we'll look into bulls and cows on there from there on out. So as we start to get towards the portion where you may be reaching your number of classes 8. So if you remember, I briefly touched on the fact that I said there's classes that happen in this in November. There's classes that happen in January, and April, in March. So there's a lot of classes that happen all throughout the year, and those classes can all count towards it. So you do not have to complete your Master Beef certification by October 1st. You do not have to complete it by October 1st. This is just the deadline to apply for or the deadline to apply for ag enhancement, but a certification is not required to be able to complete that application. You just have to have it by the time you go to get reimbursed. And so we'll go through the reimbursement deadlines, but for livestock equipment, that might be April 1st. For genetics, that might be June 1st, and so on. We'll go through those. So that is when you have to have it completed by. And so two things are going to happen. Once you've reached your 8 classes, in that first email, and I will include it in all the emails, there are 2 links in there for surveys. Everybody wanting to get their certificate or wanting to complete that certification. Once they have hit that 8, they need to complete those 2 surveys. They feed into a database, and that's what triggers UT to go, this person is completed, and they can then receive a certificate. So if you do not complete those 2 certificates, it won't trigger that system to be able to initiate a certificate for you. So you may have completed, but nothing will happen until those 2 certificates or 2 surveys are completed. And so once that happens, then UT will notify us and we can begin issuing certificates. Now, I will tell you, we are not going to send certificates until late December. So there's a reason why that. And so when we start to look at the ag enhancement deadline, um, when people start to receive notifications for their approval for ag enhancement, they typically come in late December. So we try to time the certificates to come about that time because you're going to have to start then you are eligible to get reimbursed. And so then you have your certificate when you get that reimbursement packet very soon after. So we like to time it to come out. So if you're looking for your certificate about the same time that you're looking for your reimbursement, so those will come together. So you may complete this class in mid-September. You may complete your surveys in mid-September. Your certificates are going to come in late December around that notification time. So if there's an extenuating circumstance for some reason that you have to have yours before then, please let us know. But we are going to do them all together in December. And the reason why, like I said, we've done it before, but what we found is everybody wasn't sure that they got it because they were coming in at different times. So we're going to do them all in December so it times well with ag enhancement. But if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to let me know. But that's how everything is going to go from a completion of classes, completion with the surveys, and then when your certificate. So was there a question? Was there a question? All right. So just really quick, I want to run through I want to, not really quick, I want to take some time because this may be your first time going through the Ag Enhancement Program. This may be your second. This may be your 20th time going through the Ag Enhancement Program. And so I'm going to start with the fact is the Ag Enhancement information, the new program year. So we're kind of in a dead time right now. The last reimbursements were received on August 1st. The Ag Enhancement program is going through those reimbursements right now through August. And so they are trying to process and get everybody's reimbursement checks sent out. On roughly September 1st, Ag Enhancement will be releasing the new information for the new program year. Cannot get it before. There's no way to get it. So um, on I will do probably another session, and I will also send an email out to everybody breaking down what some new program things, what some new changes might be, and then I'll probably even do right before Ag Enhancement deadline or application period. I'll probably do another session just available for anybody to jump on, talk about anything that any questions they may have, or walk through this. So we're gonna talk a little bit about just the Ag Enhancement Program in general, and then break down how it was last year and some changes we might see. So once again, for everybody, October 1st through the 7th, 2026, myself, I put this on my calendar every year, and I put a notification warning or a notification reminder on this just to send me. Let me know, send me a reminder every day, October 1st through the 7th. Let me know this because this is the deadline for the application, and it doesn't change, and it won't. There's no getting before and there's no getting after. So it's the same every year. Doesn't matter if the first starts on a Sunday, doesn't matter if the first is on a Friday or the seventh is on a Sunday, does not matter. First through the seventh every year. Um, as we look in, there's programs, and so the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program is a cost share program. And so I always like to very briefly give a rundown of where it started. And so when we start talking about it, back almost 30 years ago. Tennessee cattle, obviously, this is a cow-calf state, so a lot of Tennessee cattle, obviously, they're born here, raised here, and then we wean them and they head west. And so we ran into a lot of issues where our Tennessee cattle, feeder calves, heading west, stocker calves, and our prices were just not good. And a lot of the buyers did not like Tennessee cattle. We just didn't have the quality they were looking for. They didn't perform as well. They were very sickly. And so the ag community in Tennessee kind of came back to the drawing board and said, what do we do? How do we fix this? And so one of the big things that was looking at was just the quality of the bulls that we were using to produce these calves. As they started to look at what can we do, about the same time came the Tennessee or the tobacco settlement. And with that tobacco settlement, it became a big lump sum payment of money. And so they're trying to figure out what do we do with this money. And one of the concepts was it was to be able to provide maybe a little cost share incentive for people to improve the quality of their bulls, which then hopefully would improve the quality of the calves. And so they started out with a very, very broad topic, maybe cleaving off the bottom 15% of bulls and saying, hey, as long as you fall in the top 85% of the bulls, then those animals are approved and we're going to give you a cost share. So if you spend $2,000, we're going to give you $1,000 back to do that. So a pretty good incentive to improve the quality of your cattle. So over time, that's happened. The quality of animals has dramatically increased to the point now cattle in Tennessee are in very high demand. All processors and stockyards are really looking for Tennessee cattle because we have such high quality genetics. And so what's happened over time, we continue to shrink, not to the point where you're only having a few bulls that are providing all the calves in the country, but you have a smaller, higher quality amount of bulls that are providing calves that are going then into the feedlots and the fields out west. And so that's really dramatically increased. And so one of the other programs that was the impetus for this was hay barns. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, but just because the hay loss that we get by storing hay outside. So with that, that program has continued to expand far beyond the initial pool of money that came from the tobacco settlement. That money has gone now where it is now a budget line item within the state's budget. I'm remiss if I look at exactly what the number is, but I think it's somewhere around $32 million that the state annually puts into the ag enhancement budget. So it's been there for a long time. It's quite widely used all across the state. So it's one of the more stable items in the budget for Tennessee. So we're very fortunate in the ag world to be able to have this. There's a lot of states that are very jealous of what we have for this program. So it is the cost share program. We'll get down into a little bit more. So we call it, this is application A. So this tends to be geared more towards production side. So you've got row crops, you've got some of the poultry, and you've got um, a lot of the livestock side of it. And so this is not a competitive application. This is more of a, do you meet the minimum requirements? If you do, then you're approved. There is another one we're not talking about on here, but there is another one called application B. So some of you may be trying to do some different type of agritourism or some value added things that might apply for what we call producer diversification. And so maybe you're trying to do meat sales on the farm, or maybe you're trying to do some type of agritourism on the farm. That's where you could apply for some things like putting a pavilion or putting in a walk-in meat freezer on your property. That comes from this application B, producer diversification. That is a competitive application, while the other one is not competitive. So you can actually apply for both. So if this is something that you're trying to do for your operation, you are welcome to apply for both, and you can receive both um, both cost share programs. So if you've got more questions about producer diversification, I'm happy to follow up with that one as well. So there's a few things that are non-negotiable when we start talking about ag enhancement. One is applying before October 1st. Now that we are completely online, you can't apply before October 1st anyway. The system's shut off, but you can apply before October 1st, and you can't apply after October 7th. System shuts it on and off, so there's no human interaction for that one. The other non-negotiable is anything that you want to be have included is potentially eligible to be purchased for ag enhancement reimbursement cannot be purchased prior to October 1st. Cannot be purchased prior to October 1st. That's a non-negotiable. They will automatically deny your purchase. So you can purchase it after October 1st, and we'll go through that timeline here real quickly on this next slide. But you can purchase it after October 1st, but you cannot purchase it prior to October 1st and get it to be qualified. So real big, October 1st through the 7th deadline, can't purchase any items prior to October 1st and have them qualify for reimbursement. And so last year was the first year that they are only doing online applications at this time. So we'll go through the things where online, some that are in the mail, but right now online application only. And then they're continuing the beginning farmer program, which is for those farms that you're just getting started. Maybe you don't have the ability to get to 30 head of cattle, which is 15 mama cows and 15 calves. Maybe you don't have that ability to get there yet. And so they started a program for those not meeting those minimums, and we'll get into that one a little bit later as well. So just to go through the process for ag enhancement once again, for those that maybe you took a break from ag enhancement, you've taken a 4 or 5 year break. A lot of things have changed since then, and so it may look a little bit different. So doing it last minute may not be the best option. So one of the big things is everything is done online. You have to have an email account to be able to apply. And so I tell people, don't create an email account that you never plan on checking because they're going to send you things there. They may send it in the mail as well, but there's also probably down the line, they're going to only exclusively be sending it through the email. So two things. Don't create an email account that you're never going to check. So make sure you know how to check it and don't use somebody else's email account, especially if they also are applying for ag enhancement. So make sure that you have your own unique email account. You check it. Do not use it because they will kick probably one of those email accounts out, and they may kick your account, your whole account out if you're using that same email because they'll say it's a duplicate, kick them out. Make sure you create your own separate unique email account. And so, Matthew, I'll get to that second. Your question about purchasing something like corrals from your cows on October 2nd. I'm going to give you kind of the breakdown of how that's going to work. Okay, so if you've applied for ag enhancement before, they're going to get you a producer number. It's called a TPN. It's called a Tennessee producer number. You can have that ready. Makes it a little bit easier, not necessarily, but you can kind of jump right into, hey, we know who you are right now versus just you're applying kind of as a guest. You don't have to have it, but it's nice if you can have it. If you don't have it, you just skip that account. Or if you forgot it, you just skip that information. Do not worry about it. But if you have it, great. If you don't, you just hit skip. I'm a new person. That's fine, even though you're already in the system. You do not need it to apply on October 1st to the 7th. You don't need anything technically to apply. Um, if you've never done it before, if you've never done this before, then um, you'll get a new TPN after a TPN number after you've been in the system, and they'll assign you something new. Um, so if you've not done it for a while, I sent you information about a BQA. And so that is something that is beef quality assurance is the name. So for many, many years, that has been the standard for assuring producers that ensuring clientele, a general public, that we are producing beef at the highest uh, quality and ethically standard methods. And so that used to be a standalone class. Now they've allowed us to just integrate it into all the classes that we're doing. So we're not doing a very specific class for the BQA certification. You also had to have your BQA number prior to applying for ag enhancement. That is not true anymore. But they would like to have it through this whole thing. So that's why, and I sent the information about that paper copy. They would like us to be able to submit that to them, but it is not required in order to apply for ag enhancement. You do not have to have it, and there's not a specific class to that. So if you have questions about it, please let me know. I would say if you're looking at that application, look for answers that begin in Y, and I will leave it at that. Look for answers that potentially begin in Y. But BQA incorporated into the class already, not a separate class, and you do not need it for ag enhancement application. So we just have it at the very end. Once again, real quick, no paper booklets. I'm one of those people. I like to put it in my hand. I like to read through it, crumple it up, roll it up, put it in my back pocket. That's just how I like to do it. Obviously, I know the world is online and applications. I like to do it that way, but it does not allow us to do that. It does not allow us to do that um, anymore. The cost, I guess, was getting pretty high, and very few people apparently were using them. So no paper booklets. You'll have to just use the website, and then I will try to break down stuff as well. And so this is where I wanted to kind of make sure we understand is so you are going to only apply online. At this point, unless they change something on September 1st, at this point, that's the only time you have to do something online. When you get your reimbursement packets and emails, that's going to come via the email as well as the mail. And so when you get that packet, then when it comes to time to submit your reimbursement, you can also do that via hard mail, postal service, or you can do it via email. You don't have to, it's not going to be exclusively digital. So the only thing that's exclusively digital online is your application. The rest of it is going to be optional to do it email or through their online portal or through the mail system. Now, I will tell you this, that the online portal system is very easy to use, and it's really handy when it comes to those pictures and documents. If you take a digital picture with your camera, with your phone, you can just upload it on right straight to the portal and right into your account. Obviously, if we were going to do the hard copy and mail it in, we have to take pictures and then print them off and get them developed. Um, but we can do all those either way, no matter what. So I'll say this at the end, whether you're going to apply and you need help setting up an email account, or you just want to walk through applying online, or you get to the point where you're going to be doing submitting your reimbursement packet. I will help with any one of those, but I don't sit at the office all day, every day. So don't plan on just coming by and not seeing and just me being there. So please call or email me so that I can plan and schedule time for you to be there. But I'm happy to help with the application process. I'm also happy to help with the reimbursement process. So just to kind of give you a snapshot of what the deadlines are going to look like. And so this is what a calendar year looks like as far as you applying. This is how it's going to go. You're going to apply October 1st through the 7th. You're going to probably get an approval notifications that are going to be sent about mid-December. I know they always have the target of early December or late November, but the sheer number of applications that they get is growing each year. And so it's going to be very difficult. So in the end, it seems to be I feel pretty comfortable saying mid-December, you're probably going to be getting your notification. So this is where the question arose was, can I purchase my corral panels on October 2nd? So I liken this to two different things. If you tell me that you're going to purchase a squeeze chute, regardless of the ag enhancement funds, that, hey, I have to have this squeeze chute and I need it right now. I'm applying for it, but I can't wait any longer. I'm buying my squeeze chute. I'd say go ahead and purchase it on October 2nd, and it's eligible to be reimbursed. You're just not guaranteed of getting reimbursed. You're not guaranteed until you get that approval notification in mid-December. Once you get the approval notification, then hey, I'm going to get reimbursed as long as it qualified for what I was, as long as it's a qualifying item, I'm going to get reimbursed. If you tell me that I am only going to buy this squeeze chute or these corral panels if I know I'm going to get reimbursed for them, then I would go ahead and wait until you get that reimbursement notification in mid-December. And so either way, October 2nd, those crowd panels will qualify for what you're looking for. But if you want to guarantee, then wait till you get that notification in mid-December. Then in January, probably late January, you're going to get a reimbursement packet. It's going to be mailed. Don't throw it away. Don't forget where you put it, because if you look all the way down here, August 7th is the last deadline. So you're talking 8 months where you kind of just put it off on the corner, forget about it, leave it on the shop bench, forget about it. And then you go to get reimbursed, try to get reimbursed and completing the packet on July 31st and you can't find it. Um, just put it somewhere you can remember. But this is the packet you're going to get to use to get reimbursed. And so it's got to have all the information you need to be able to go ahead and complete. You can also complete in the online portal of your Ag Enhancement account. So that takes us to January 2027. Now, I want to go through those. So each of these programs, depending on the program that you apply for, has different deadlines. And so those different deadlines um, are spread out so that they are not getting everybody's reimbursement requests all at one time. And so then it's 8 months before you get your reimbursement check. So they've tried to spread it out a little bit. So if you're getting equipment, there's two deadlines. There's the decline deadline, as well as the reimbursement request deadline. So the first big one is, hey, you apply for something October 1st through 7th, you're not committed to anything. You apply for a hay barn thinking, hey, this is what I want to do. I need this. March happens, a major life event happens, and you go, "Ah, I just don't think I'm going to have the money. I don't have the time, whatever that may be. I just can't do it." So as long as there's a piece of paper, as long as you turn in that paper that says I'm going to politely decline my funds for this year, they're going to say no hard feelings. Please apply again next year. If you get to April 1st, you just go, I just forgot to turn it in. I just don't feel like doing this today. So I'm going to just not do it. And you don't tell them that you're declining the funds. They may turn around and go, you know what? Why don't you sit this one out for a couple of years? I'm not saying they will, but they might, because what happens is they can't then really properly utilize those funds. So if you decline them, then they can turn around and maybe allocate those funds to a different area to help somebody else. So that's where each one of these programs has a deadline to decline funding and then a reimbursement deadline. So some of these items are going to be back ordered. That's okay. You still submit the reimbursement request with a receipt that shows, hey, I've already paid for it. And then you just put back ordered on there. And so they'll follow back up with you when the item comes in. You send them pictures, everything else. So that quite frequently happens with the equipment deadlines, and then sometimes in the barns where there may be a product or something that's on back order. So that's okay if you don't have it right away, but you still go ahead and submit all of your paperwork on time, and then that'll get you in the queue, and then you can kind of go back and clean that up a little bit later. So um, going through here, you'll see one of the questions we get is the genetics programs. Every once in a while, you'll see somebody having a sale, a cow sale, a heifer sale, a bull sale in September. And so this is where I said there's a black and white, non-negotiable thing. You cannot apply, you cannot purchase something prior to October 1st. So where they do have a little bit of a gray area on, and this is you have to communicate. There are some cow sales that happen in September. That's obviously prior to the October date. If you communicate to them ahead of time about the cow sale that you're looking at going to, and when it's happening, when it's occurring, they will oftentimes let some of these animals, like let's say heifers or a bull that you purchase in one of these sales, they can allow that to be approved. But you need to communicate that to them ahead of time that you're purchasing this. Maybe you're going to be purchasing an animal from this sale, and so hey, can I look at this qualifying? Sometimes we get into some heifer sales that are happening right towards the first week of June. Once again, that's something, please communicate that with them that, hey, I'm interested in some heifers. I'm looking at these. There's this sale is this day. Please, would you consider allowing these? So make sure you communicate to them. That's the only one that has kind of that non-negotiable. That can be an exception to that. But I know there's quite a few sales that are happening in September. So don't think, hey, you know what, I can't go to them because they don't qualify. Communicate, a lot of them will qualify for that. So um, we've talked about some of these things, so we won't go over them too much. Like I said, some of the non-negotiable items. We've talked about applying before the deadline, purchases made prior to October 1st, multiple applications on the same farm. So I do like to talk about this a little bit. I know this doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. Sometimes we have husband and wives that maybe they each had a family farm, they're married, maybe the parents pass away, they've inherited a family farm. So maybe the wife has cattle farm, but they got cattle. Maybe the husband has um, a different set of cattle. And if long as they are filing separate Schedule Fs for these farms, and they are getting, let's say, uh, it's Sarah Smith and Bob Smith. When Sarah Smith gets a load of feed, she gets a load of feed delivered to Sarah Smith. The invoice says Sarah Smith, and all the other payment, all the other expenses have Sarah Smith listed on it. And then Sarah Smith goes to sell her cattle at the auction, sells them. She gets a check back from the auction to Sarah Smith, and then Sarah Smith files her own uh, Schedule F taxes. And then Bob Smith does the same thing. He gets a load of feed from the co-op or wherever he's getting it from. He gets a bill to Bob Smith, takes him to auction. He gets a check from Bob Smith. As long as they're completely separate, they can be both applying. We sometimes see that with father son. Maybe you have two sets of cattle. Maybe you have 100 acres and you're running two sets of 25 head of cattle. You can run that on that same acreage. You can run 25 head of your cows, 25 head of dad's or grandpa's cows on there, as long as you are getting separate feed bills, you're getting separate expense checks, you're getting separate checks when it comes to selling them at the feed yard auction, whatever that may be. Please, this is one of those things you need to reach out to me as we to kind of go through some of these things. But there are some things that can qualify. But in general, if husband and wife are one's row crop and one, that they're for the farm, we got some row crops, they got some cattle, but they're all one LLC or they're all one family. They're married filing jointly. That will not qualify. So um, probably better to hear your each individual situation. And once again, I am not the deciding factor on this. So when in doubt, I always want to get a direct response from Tennessee Ag Enhancement Programs, the TAEP. So I just say, I always recommend send an email to them so they can send an email back to you, and then you kind of have verification of whatever their answer is. Um, I can give you guidance, but I am not the authority on it. Uh, Another non-negotiable is an adjusted gross income of more than 900,000. Don't submit a quote instead of a paid invoice, especially if you are submitting at the deadline for a back ordered item. You cannot give them a quote. It has to be a paid invoice. They will automatically kick you out of the program if you do anything different than a paid invoice. Play online. Last one's a big one. See this quite frequently. The paid invoice has to be in the name of the applicant. See this all the time. Dad's name's been on the at the farm store, has been on the account at the farm store, as in Dan Smith, and you're going to start taking over this, and so you're going to apply under ag enhancement under your name, but they've kept Dan Smith's name on the account at the farm store. So when um, you go buy a load of feed and you get an invoice, or let's say you go buy a squeeze chute, you get a paid receipt, and it says paid on the account to Dan Smith instead of Bob Smith, then they are going to deny your application and they don't review it. It's going to be denied. So make sure that when you get that invoice, it has your name, who is applying for ag enhancement, who has the master beef certificate. You may have to go there, make sure that dad's name or somebody else's name is not on the account. Make sure you get your name on the invoice. Let's see here. So the question is, what if father and son have the same name, last and same middle initials? That may take some explanation. So a lot of times, ag enhancement will reach out. They're not out to play get you or gotcha. So what they're out to do is trying to maintain the integrity of the program. So there may be a clarifying question of, hey, oh, I see you both have the same name, making sure that junior or senior, that we have different locations that we're at. It may just take a little bit of explanation. So ag enhancement is there to assist you. And so what what they do is they're going to try to be the administrators of the program. And so as you go through here, so I wanted to pull up the 2026 program and get into some of these. Um, the big thing on a lot of these is the ag enhancement program is their goal in the end has been able to move towards items that have longevity. So anything that did not last very long, they ran into some issues with some technology softwares that they were offering, and that you bought it this year, and 2 years later they were completely irrelevant. And so that was money that was kind of not a good investment for them, not a good investment for you as well. So they've been looking to invest in things that have some longevity and so that makes a big difference. So for almost all of these programs, there is a 5-year period that they can come out to your place and verify that that is there. Obviously, some bulls happen, breaks down, something happens, and you have to get rid of them. That's an explanation. You explain it, what's happening, they're understanding. But as we get more into the equipment and hay storage and things like that, there's about a 5-year period where they can come out there and verify that you have that. That is purely because they want to maintain the integrity of the program. They don't want you to build a hay barn and then immediately turn that into a barn dominium, and just so that you got a $7,000 discount on your barn dominium. Things happen. They don't want you to build a hay barn, put the hay outside, and then put all your RV and boat underneath the storage. People do that. And so those are the things, if those things happen, that's how you end this program very quickly. So what's going to happen is they're probably going to call you a day ahead of time and say, hey, we're going to plan on being there tomorrow. Can we just verify that you have this hay barn? Can we verify that you have this squeeze chute? And so they're not going to sneak onto your property. They're going to call you ahead of time, plenty ahead of time to say, can we meet and visit with you at that time? They just want to come verify that it's there, it's being used as it's supposed to be, and you go from there. Um, but most of them have a 5-year period on some of this equipment. But so the 2026 programs, like I said, this was based on last year. We hopefully get this new information. I don't imagine these items are going to change much at all. There might be a slight tweak, but what's happened, they've kind of lowered some of the numbers because one of the worst case scenarios they had 10 years ago is that they tried to keep the numbers as high as they possibly could. They got more applications than they had dollars for, so they had to then go back and lower some of those amounts. And I think they don't want to do that again. So they want the option of being able to, as in this year, they received all their applications and they decided, oh, we've got actually a few more dollars than we have um, based on our application. We've got a few extra dollars. So then they came back to some of these areas and they actually bumped those numbers up. Livestock equipment, genetics, they actually bumped from 2 to 3,000. Hay storage, they bumped from 7 to 8,000. And so there was an opportunity to get a little bit more. And so that's not a guarantee. I don't ever base anything on what they did in the past, base it on what they're telling you right now, moving forward in the future. So if you're buying something, buy it based on the number that livestock equipment, it's $2,000. And if you get any more than that, that's great. And so this is based on two different things. So 2,000 is the maximum amount of money that you can receive back, but 50% is the cost share threshold. So let's say you buy a squeeze chute, it costs $4,000, you get $2,000 back. If you buy a squeeze chute and it costs $2,000, you get $1,000 back because the max is 50% of that item. If you buy a $10,000 squeeze chute, $20,000 squeeze chute, you're going to get $2,000 back. And that's the same for all of these except hay storage. We'll get into that as we work our way down through here. So each one of these program areas is listed on the Tennessee Ag Enhancement website. and you can see all the items that qualify for livestock equipment. And so if you go to apply for livestock equipment, it doesn't, you don't apply for a squeeze chute. You apply for livestock equipment. So you can buy panels and you can buy a squeeze chute and you can buy um, a sprayer. You can buy a bunch of things under livestock equipment, but you're capped at that $2,000, 50% mark. So genetics, there's heifers, there's bulls, working structures, fence line systems, covers that would be covers over your working facility, or putting in permanent working structures, corral pens, fence line feeding systems, inline feeders for feeding cattle. Herd health is a great opportunity. This is one of those that has a maximum number of times you can apply under this, but great opportunity. It's almost a dollar for dollar program doing things that you probably already doing as far as castration, vaccinations, deworming, things like that, 840 tags. And so this is almost a dollar for dollar program. So Dairy Solutions has an opportunity. Livestock Solutions, maybe for some of our bigger items like seed drills. So as we're talking right now, you're looking to hopefully this fall is going to shape up to be a great opportunity to put in some new pastures. Seed drills are going to be hard to come by this year. They're pretty limited. So a lot of times the co-op and maybe your NRCS office offer some seed drills, but there's a lot of people needing it at the same time. So that's where it's becomes one of those items where you can't justify owning it, but you can't afford not to. So hay equipment, once again, so it used to be in the past. Well, we'll get to that. Hay storage is 7,000, but it is not you buy a $14,000 barn and you get 7,000 back. It is actually based on a dollar per square foot. And so the dollar per square foot being $4 a square foot. So the minimum size of a hay barn you can get is a 30 by 40, 1,200 square feet. So if you take 1,200 square feet, multiply it by $4, you can get $4,800 back. So that's not 7,000. So the max you can get is 4,800. Let's say you buy a 60 by 40, 2,400 square feet, multiply that by four, and you get $9,200, $9,600. And so you're not going to get $9,600 because the max is 7,000. But so you're getting the full 7,000 if you build a 60 by 40 hay barn. And so just make sure everybody clearly understands that. Once again, happy to talk about that as we go, as we get closer into that application time. But just a reminder, the final amounts are determined after the applications are received, but they usually, the baseline is it's not going below whatever that number is when it comes out at the time. And then it potentially on some years does get bumped up. But I hope the 2027 program information will come out right around September 1st, 2026. And at that time, I'll send information out and maybe even do a call again to everyone. So I want to real briefly go through just an example of how impactful this program can be just from an annual basis for each person. So I'm going to take just hay. I'm not going to get into all the components that spread out from this, whether equipment you can talk about manage or baling hay, anything from the hay equipment side. I'm not going to talk about the pasture side, about spraying and drills and things like that. I'm going to talk specifically just about the hay component of storing it and feeding it, and just how this could look in your pocketbook over a couple of year period. And then how does that look on down the line? So if you look at hay storage, if you store hay outside, any hay that is stored outside, you are going to lose automatically, especially if in that first cutting hay you put out there and you get to feeding it in mid to late winter, you're going to lose 20 to 30%, probably closer to 30% of that hay if it's just stored outside on the ground like this. So as you look at 20 to 30% loss just from storing it. So I'm going to use the example is if you do a 60 by 40 barn, and I am really, really going to err on the side of being on the low end. So let's say you can get 250 4x5 rolls in there and they weigh 800 pounds. You probably can get closer to 300 275, 300, somewhere in there with that number, with that size of barn. You have the, 14, 16 foot eaves on there. But let's be on the low end. So 250 4x5 rolls, they weigh 800 pounds. At 30% loss, remember, the outer 6 inches makes up about 30% of that bale. So the outer 6 inches, which is taking all the weather, makes up about 30% of that bale. That's 240 pounds of loss per bale that you are losing. And we all know baling hay is not free. You're probably talking, if you don't do anything other than bale it, I mean, other than if you don't do any type of nutrient applications, if you don't do any type of herbicide applications, if you just bale what you have, no grass renovation, bale what you have, you've probably got 25 to $30 in it just in fuel, equipment wear and tear, the number of times you go around with mowing, tethering, raking, baling, all those things. Um, so you have 240 pounds of loss from I'm sorry, from just it sitting outside before you've done anything with it. You multiply that by the 250 bales you have, that's 60,000 pounds of loss that you have from all that hay baling from just those 250 bales. You lost 60,000 pounds, 800 pound bale. So really at the end of the season, you've lost 75 bales to waste. And I'm going to be very conservative and say, once again, $50 a roll, 75 bales times $50 a roll. You lost 37.50 just by that bale sitting outside. My guess is you're much higher, you're closer, much over 5,000 probably. I'm just because I was being very conservative, but you lost $5,000 just by not doing anything but just setting the bales outside. And that's assuming you're going to feed them. And so that doesn't get into the cattle side of, well, do they have enough nutrition? Is the quality of nutrition going down? All that. It just gets into just the straight waste loss is going to be right around 5,000, but I'm going to say 37.50. So then we're going to go into feeding it. And so a lot of times we get into um, hay rings. Maybe we just set the bale out there. Maybe we unroll it. So there's a lot of variation in loss. There's just going to be some things that are going to be a loss. You just can't get every bit of hay from from a hay bale. So, but we want to try to minimize that. So one of the programs that they offer, so the hay barns last, take care of that first problem in storage. So now we have another potential loss in how we feed it. And so inline hay feeding, which is a new program that they are really now starting to push, trying to get producers to take advantage of, involves obviously you're feeding it from the other side of the fence. You're not driving across your pastures. You're not having cattle overgraze your pastures during the summer. You're not dealing with as much mud, more you can control the mud a little bit more. Um, but we're trying to reduce our hay losses. And so what happens in this type of situation, you set the bale inside of that hay feeder. The cows have to stretch their necks to get in there. And so when they do start to pull back, if there's any loss, it's dropped inside of there. And so what you can actually do, and it's covered, what you can actually do is push the next bale up and you can kind of scrape some of that hay up and pile it up. And so they can still be eating it without it going bad. So you're reducing your losses. So let's just say instead of losing 15 to 20%, which we're probably losing if we're feeding round bales or you're just putting it out there on the field, you might be even more than that. We're not considering, like I said, ground wear and tear, any of those other things. If we just reduce our loss from 20% to 10 using this, and it's probably can even go lower using a structure like this. 250 rolls, 4x5 rolls at 800 pounds. We're gonna have an 80-pound loss per bale at 250 bales. So that's 20,000 pounds we've lost by the method of which we were feeding just out in the middle of the field at 800 pounds per bale. So that's basically we've lost 75 bales at $50 a roll. So we've lost $1,250 on how we're feeding it. So you can't, not all these things are perfect. You can't necessarily do everything. Reality is there's limitations everybody has. And so there are things that you want to do, you just can't do. But I also think it's important to be able to see what some options are so that if the opportunity ever becomes available, maybe you can see where it fits in there. So if you count storing it and then feeding it, nothing else, none of the other benefactors that can come into that are helped by some of these methods. We're talking probably on the low end, $5,000 and 100 bales that we're saving every year by implementing something like this that is a part of a cost share program that they are helping cover a good portion of some of this stuff. Um, so you're seeing very real money that is going back in your pocket in an investment that, we always talk about on the cattle side. Right now, obviously, cattle prices are high. They're doing really well, but we can't necessarily control making our cattle worth more. There's a few things that we can do, but a lot of times what we can better control is the losses. So we can stop losing as much money, which makes us more money. And so that's what this is, a really great option. To me, this is just a very short, taking two items over 2 years and showing, hey, this is what you can do to reduce losses and put probably closer to $7,000 back in your pocket on an annual basis, just reducing what you're already paying for. So I just wanted to really quickly break that down, show it to everybody, and just kind of get you thinking about other ways you can do things. So just a few program updates that have happened along the way. Hay storage is our only standalone barns. They used to allow you to build side extensions off of existing hay barns um, or build off another hay barn or another shed. Can't do that. Has to be a standalone barn with no side additions. You can do hay equipment and storage. So we don't do. Used to have a rotating. It's hay equipment 1 year, storage the next year. They're both going to be probably on the program. Um, One of the things that is a little frustrating. We're hoping we're making progress. Maybe we're going to make some changes to this. I don't know if it's in near future. Hay equipment is only for producers that have 100 acres of first cutting hay. So you can't do, 40 acres cut 3 times and that be 120 acres. So it does not work. Um, so first cutting hay, you don't have to own all the ground, but you do have to be able to show where it exists at. And there's no qualifications based on livestock numbers. So you can't say I have 100 head of cattle and that should qualify. It does not. It's based on hay acreage. No used equipment. Once again, they're talking about longevity. Now that is a little bit different because of seed drills. And so they do allow some exclusions like seed drills. It's hard to find some of those here. So I highly recommend maybe looking around. If you can't find a good drill here and there's some that are just hard to find, you might look towards the Midwest on some of those good seed drills. So the beginning farming program is only equipment and genetics. So and it's only for livestock. And then make sure you look and find your item, livestock equipment or livestock solutions. There's livestock equipment in livestock solutions. So you don't want to apply for livestock equipment and be looking at an item like a seed drill or a trailer that is in livestock solutions because there's a $2,000 difference between those two areas. So if you apply for equipment, you're not going to qualify for the trailer, or you're only going to get $2,000 back. So make sure you know what you're applying for. For those that are part of the beginning farmer program, and so this is for those, as I mentioned, or people that don't quite meet the minimum requirements, you can participate in 2 consecutive years and then you're out. Whereas somebody that's part of this program, the regular program can participate every year as long as they maintain their Master Beef certification, they can participate every year. So you have to complete the farming fundamentals class. Um, it goes back 10 years. So if you farm longer than 10 years, technically that wouldn't qualify. You do have to file a Schedule F, but let's say you haven't filed a Schedule F yet. You just have to tell them your intentions to be able to file a Schedule F for this upcoming year. And then you meet these minimum numbers below, 5 to 29 heads. So once again, a reminder is 5 head is 5 total heads. So if you have 3 cows and they have 3 calves, you have 6 head. So that would qualify you for the beginning farmer program. So that's ag enhancement. I know we went through a whole bunch, but I do real quickly want to run through there's one other cost share program. It's offered through a completely different entity. The first one was Tennessee Department of Ag. This is the USDA NRCS EQIP program. And Environmental Quality Incentives Program offered through the USDA. Money comes down to the state. Half that money stays at the state level. Half that money goes down to each county level. So Williamson County and every county across the state has a program. Some counties may be joined together, but there's an NRCS FSA office in almost every county. And so money comes down to there for them to be able to offer county level programs. This is once again, this is kind of a competitive application. So you get an application, you get scored based on the priority levels of that local working group. And then you apply based on some of their opportunities that they may have. So soil and water quality is their main emphasis. And so for a lot of our counties, especially those in Middle Tennessee, they tend to have more of a priority towards livestock related things. As they go west, you may see more things geared towards row crop. As you go east, you might see some things geared towards vegetable high tunnel production. But there's a competitive application to score. But it is a very real and it very can be a very helpful cost share program. They may say as much as 75% cost share on some of these items. But some of the good things that they do, cross fencing and exclusion fencing. Let's say you have a creek that runs through your property or you have a pond on your property, um, and you don't necessarily want them running through the creek, but you need it for water. So one, they might help pay for exclusionary fencing to keep them out of the pond, out of the creek. Um, but let's say, hey, I need them still to have access to that pond because that's their only source of water. And so maybe instead of letting them have access to complete pond, they will put an exclusionary fencing around that complete pond, except 1 point access, same in the creek. Instead of complete access to the whole creek, they get access to only 1 point in that creek to be able to drink water. So they would help cost share up to a certain limit fencing that goes in there. So they might contribute up to maybe I can't remember, it's 350 or 350 somewhere in there, dollars per running foot for exclusionary fencing. They might potentially look at doing exclusionary fencing. Let's say you've been watering out of a pond, but you have the ability to get a well. They might help put exclusionary fencing around the pond and then help you install automatic waterers um, in in your field. And so this is where the cross fencing, where you first maybe give them complete access to all of your property, where you really want to get into rotational grazing to take advantage of a lot of those principles and maintaining the overall quality of your pasture. They might help you put in some cross fencing to break up your ground so you can do some rotational grazing. And then they might help you put automatic waters in so that you can be able to have water access at each one of those for each one of those paddocks. And so that's a great opportunity. Some will prioritize high tunnels as an opportunity for those producers. Forestry management, trying to get rid of maybe some invasive species of forestry and then trying to help establish some quality hardwoods. Forestry and wildlife practices, and then prescribed grazing. And this is where if you are doing a great job with rotational grazing and you're doing a great job of not overgrazing your pasture, you have the right stocking density, they may pay you up to $35 an acre a year because you're managing it the correct way. But you have to get your farm entered into that program. This is a great program. They literally will pay you to be doing what you're already doing, which is being a good steward of your land, managing it, stocking it at the right rate. So I highly recommend checking it out from that. So this is the Williamson County contact information. November 20th is the rough deadline because they don't come out with that deadline until we get closer to November, but it's roughly about the third week of November that the deadline is to apply for this program. So you got to get in there, you got to apply. Your application's then scored. So I highly encourage you throughout the year, reach out to your district conservationist. Like I said, just go to the NRCS website, find your county, reach out to your district conservationist. He can come out to your place. He can start talking to you about things that might apply for what you could do on your farm. And that gives you a better idea so that whenever it comes time to apply, you're ready to go. And he can give you a pretty good idea. Hey, I think this will be a very competitive application, or I'm not sure that this will fit. Sometimes if you have 20 head of cattle and you have 10 acres, it's going to be really hard to rotationally graze. And so once again, soil and water quality being their priority, it's going to be hard to maintain that. So please reach out to your district conservationist, set up a time, come out there, visit, get an idea for what you guys are hoping to do moving forward. So we have reached the end. I appreciate everybody standing by. I'm going to try to look and see if there's questions. Um, and so one of them is, can you still sign up? Yes. Anybody you know that's part of this program, they are still, if they're wanting to participate, even though we've gone through that first night, they're still absolutely welcome to participate. This session is recorded and will be available online at a later date so they can be able to look at it. Certainly can. Uh, so does farming fundamentals class have to be completed prior to the 10-1 deadline? No, farming fundamentals does not have to be completed by the application deadline. There are no requirements for certifications, licenses, anything like that in order to apply for ag enhancement. You're not obligated to anything to apply by ag enhancement. So the certification only has to be completed when you go to get reimbursed. So for the beginning farmer program, that's either April 1st for the livestock equipment or June 1st for the genetics portion. So you have some time to be able to get that done. You don't have to rush through to get this taken care of. Sorry, the name of the last program I just covered. And so that was called the NRCS EQIP, EQIP program. It's administered through the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. Um, so a lot of times the acronym goes USDA NRCS-EQIP. And if that's not a mouthful and a government acronym, word salad, I don't know what is. So everybody, I guess, lives in the acronym world, so that we're going to join right along with that. But these information, I'll try to send this in the recap, both links to these. Like I said, I provided the Williamson County contact information, but same method for reaching out to the rest of your people. So are there any questions before we wrap up for the night? Well, I thank you all for your time. We will meet next Monday. Next Monday, we will have our next session, and we'll be on forages, and then we'll really dive really heavy into the heifer side. I will have this recorded and loaded, and then sent to you so you can review or send to anybody else. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.